Hello, everyone. Welcome to one more sessions about our webinar. Today we'll be discussing about COVID-19 and the challenges of remote work in Africa. And for this conversation today, we have two guest speakers. They are Olive MUMBO. She is a lawyer by profession, and she's advisor at the United Nations Sustainable Development Solution Network Youth. And of course, we have Eric BAKULI. Eric BAKULI is a youth leader and strategic communication enthusiast based in Nairobi, Kenya. Eric is passionate about digital marketing and sustainable development. So, we have these two amazing, let me say, speakers that will share with us their knowledge about the remote work in Africa in the times of COVID-19. So I will be inviting them to the show. Let me say, Olive, hello.
Hello, everyone. How are you doing? Thank you for having me today. I look forward to the session.
That's great, Olive. Thank you very much. Eric, how are you doing, Eric?
I am doing fantastic. I am so happy to be here. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the session, and I am looking forward to having a very productive session with you all. Thank you.
That's really amazing. So I didn't say in the beginning that this conversation will be conducted with by our intern called Tony Hale. Tony Hale is a student at the University of Virginia, and she is interning in Youth Reference Hub during 2 months so far. And she will be conducting this. Tony, I'm inviting you to the show right now. Hello, Tony. How are you doing?
Hi, everyone. I'm doing really well. How are you all?
Hello,
Good.
Tony. Can you hear us? How are you doing?
Doing fantastic.
Can you hear me? Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm doing great. Thank you. So excited to be here as well. And yeah, I can't wait to find out more about the COVID-19.
Good. Yeah, that's nice. So
yeah, I was just going to say I can't wait to find out more about the COVID-19 and the challenges of remote work in Africa.
Even me, I believe that even the viewers in the internet, maybe they are also keen to learn a bit about this great topic and very current topic. So the webinar will last approximately maybe 50 minutes. Let's see if the conversation will really go to be at 50 minutes, because sometimes it can go a bit longer, because depending on how we are going to answer each question. So Tony Hale, the stage is yours. Olive MUMBO, Eric BAKULI, thank you very much. I will be in the backstage, but looking everything going on. Thank you.
Thank you.
So, thank you, Rogerio. So yeah, Olive and Eric, today we're going to talk about the COVID-19 and the challenges of remote work in Africa. We all know that COVID-19 brought enormous challenges for all of us. So today we're going to discuss about to what extent in Africa is this challenge not an impediment to the productivity of workers? How have Africans been dealing efficiently with this, and many more? So yeah, let's get started. I will first ask the first question. And my first question is, what impact has COVID-19 had on your current work? And what is the forecast for future work in Africa?
Yes, fantastic. Olive, if you want to go first, ladies first, then I will follow. Okay, I think I'll just go as I think we're having a problem with all of them. Yeah, so Thank you again for inviting me to this webinar today. And Rogiro has already made an introduction of me and also what I do and what I'm passionate about. So just to start off with the question that here you have asked, I will say I am one of the people who were fortunate enough to get an internship when in the middle of a pandemic. A lot was happening, a lot of opportunities were being shared out by different organizations, but also at the same time, a lot of opportunities were being closed out. A lot of jobs were being kind of like done away with, and a lot of positions were being kind of like reshuffled. And for me, getting an internship in the middle of a pandemic, I will say it was very interesting. I got to learn a lot in terms of not only from the tasks that I was assigned to take, but also just to navigate the whole scenario because, there was no going to the office. This was the first time I was working from home. And also, before I got my internship, just a little bit of a background, I used to do a lot of voluntary work. And um, the voluntary work that I was doing, most of it involved kind of like physical activities, meeting people, going into communities, talking to people, interacting with them, just carrying out different tasks physically. But when I got this internship, it meant that I had to adjust with speed, start working from home, and it brought a lot of challenges, but also at the same time, it helped me navigate the different obstacles and deliver the best. Now, just to say that working from home has been very interesting. When I was starting off, I had, of course, to get a table. I didn't have like a proper table for me to sit because this meant that you were supposed to sit for a very long period of time just doing your work. And also this meant that you had to look for a place where there's kind of like quiet. You don't want to sit in a loud place because you're also talking to other people and you don't want to interfere with them. You also need to plan your schedule because you're not traveling to work. So you might fall asleep and wake up when the work hours have already started. And and you also have to get a proper internet connection so that you can ensure that you are speaking to people, they can hear you very clearly, you can articulate yourself without any distractions, and yeah, just the general stuff. Now, just maybe when I go to the second part of the question, when it comes to what is the forecast for the future of work in Africa, I see a future of work whereby there will be limited visit to the offices. So people will not be working from the offices anymore. Office spaces will be kind of like done away with most organizations because most companies at the moment have realized that they can actually supervise their workers whenever they are at home, and also ensure that they are delivering their best when it comes to performing at work. Now, people also have kind of like received the autonomy to work from anywhere. You'll find someone is in Dubai and maybe they are working on a job that is based in South Korea or in New York, and they are doing it very perfectly. You will even think they are there, but they are not there. So I think that is just some of the impacts that COVID-19 has had on our changes. I also see um, a change in requirements for jobs because right now you will say that most people are being kind of like retrenched and others are losing their jobs, but the fact is most companies have actually realized that they can do a lot more with less people, so that means that when I am hiring a person, for example, I'm hiring a digital marketer, what I need to do is I need to hire someone who can do digital marketing, but also at the same time, they have a little bit of a background in communication so that they can kind of like multitask the same. So these are benefit, but also it has its own downsides. But most companies have actually realized that they can do a lot with little stuff, and that's why you are seeing people being retrenched and all that. So it might be because of COVID-19 implications, maybe a cut in budgets because they're not making the appropriate profits, but also companies have realized we can do this and get these much more benefits without having necessarily a lot of stuff. Yeah, so I think the list can continue to go on, but I'll stop there and hear from Olive.
Yeah, thank you
Okay,
so
thank you
much,
for
Eric.
that. So sorry, I was having a little bit of internet connectivity challenges. For the sake of maintaining the decorum, I'll just put my video off for now. So the impact of COVID-19, as my colleagues have mentioned earlier, is really unprecedented, and it has brought a lot of disruption in the global economy. In Africa, there has been tremendous records of high debt levels limit fiscal space, and this in turn has brought about large healthcare costs being borne by both the public sector and households in general. These have continually drained and any available savings and even went further into eating into household assets. Exacerbating these problems are not only the COVID-19 pandemic, but also low mineral prices and export earnings. And the weather in Africa is not helping at all. There's been cases of drought threatening many farmers and urban dwellers in Southern Africa, while flooding and locusts are destroying crops in East Africa. There has been a continual decline in domestic and foreign demand threatening formal farms, while the informal economy, where three-quarters of Africa's labor force works, will not be able to buffer these forces this time without help from governments. So indeed, the COVID-19 pandemic has brought a lot of ramifications to not just the society, but also the health sector, the policy sector, and generally the economy in whole. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, thank you, Eric and Oli, for your answers. Those were very interesting insights. My next question is, if your business or your work went remote at any point, what benefits and or deficits have you seen as a result?
Yeah, that's a very interesting question here. And just straight up, when I hear that question, the answer that comes to my mind is that there have been reduced levels in stress. As we all know, working from home is not as strenuous in kind of like a higher percentage as it is from working from the office. So you will find out that most of the people were working in offices which were very like it required a lot of travel for you to reach your workplace. For example, you could even spend 1 hour in traffic to get to your workplace. And working from home meant that you have reduced stress levels because you no longer need to kind of like get to that public transport system or maybe get stuck in traffic jams as you go to work. And this has really improved people's mental health. They can focus clearly because all you need to do is wake up, take a shower, take your breakfast, and then sit in front of your laptop and start executing your functions. But as compared to maybe now working from the office, now especially if you live far away from the office, and in Africa, I'm very sure almost 90% of the cities in Africa experience very heavy traffic jams. So you can imagine waking up in the morning, you have to wake up very early in the morning so that you can beat the traffic, you can be at work on time, and also, prepare yourself mentally and physically to do your jobs. And also, another thing I would say is improved health for the people, because now, as you are well aware, there is a lot of pollution that comes from our transportation systems, especially in Africa. And working from home means that you will no longer need to go out there and expose yourself to harmful fumes and those air pollutions that come around from different industries and different vehicles, because you are confined to your home and all you need to do is wake up and then start doing your job. And then I will say also that there's effective delivery of tasks. People no longer have to waste time. For example, when you are at the office, you can easily start talking to your colleagues and maybe wasting time and doing the sort of some kind of things. But when you are at home, mostly you'll find that when you jump on a call with a colleague, it's mostly you are talking business. You want to sort out an issue or you want to execute your functions as you go on. As office, whereby people might get into conversations that are not necessarily right for, or maybe when you go for a lunch break, you find that you are really sitting there for a very long time instead of just coming in at the right time and doing it. But working from home kind of like restricts you, and it gives you kind of like the right break. And then after that break is over, there's someone who is expecting you to come on board, and they're not making stories with you, they are discussing business with you. I'll also say that there's been diversification of tasks. People are able to jump on different tasks and learn from others. For example, I'll just give an example. In a normal organization setup, when people are normally going to the office to do their jobs, you'll find that when there's a training or a workshop that is being done, especially out of the office, for example, let's say in a hotel somewhere, or people are required to travel to attend that specific training, you will find that what the organization will do will sample out specific people in that particular department to go out to take that training. But now, when it comes to remote working, when there's a training, so long as you have time, people and your manager will always pull you and say, okay, Eric, do you have time? If you have time, you can come into this training and learn something. So it doesn't need to be like a selection of staff who are supposed to take part in that particular workshop or not. And also, workers are able to share their ideas widely. I feel like there's that openness. People are able to kind of like share their ideas, share their take part in decision making processes, as compared to be to when people are working from the office. Because when you're working from the office and decisions are being made somewhere, you will find that most of the time people who are above you are the ones who will just be walking into that boardroom and making that decision. And it's very difficult for you as a junior staff to kind of like get your voice on that at that management level, to also voice your opinions. But when you are working remotely, you'll find that maybe your manager is telling you to kind of like help you set up a meeting, and when you do that, that means you'll also be involved in that particular meeting. And when you take part in that particular meeting, managers are always understanding. They will always ask you, okay, Eric, based on the discussion you have had, what do you think we can do differently, or what idea do you have that you can actually add on this particular thing? The list also continues to be more. There are a lot of benefits that I believe we cannot exhaust now, so I'll just move on to again highlight some of the shortfalls or some of the disadvantages of working from home, and we'll hear from Olive. So some of the disadvantage of working from home, and this is something I've actually experienced, is you'll find that you are working off hours. For example, if you're supposed to end at 5 p.m., you'll always find yourself working past that work hour. And it's not necessarily because your manager or your supervisor is forcing you to do it. They'll always be very fair and even ask you not to work past that 1 hour. But if you are a person who is driven by, I would say, you are always inspired and you love doing what you do, you'll always find that you are working off hours, you are working even up to 8 p.m. And yeah, it's good, but also if you do not know how to regulate it, it might affect you mentally and also physically, and all that. There are also health risks. For example, if you work from the office, of course, you will be moving around. You'll be expected to wake up in the morning, take a shower, walk to a bus stop, or drive, and you will kind of like be in motion. But when you're working from home, this is a very big disadvantage, because all you need to do is just kind of like wake up, go to the shower, take your breakfast, and sit down for the whole day. Sometimes you'll even find out that you're just sitting there for a whole week, 24/7. You've just been sitting down. You have not moved out of your house, and this is a very big health risk. Of course, some people will say, okay, this only happens in the formal sector, but you have the informal sector where people have to get out there, move around, battle with the risks of COVID-19, and also do that. I also understand there's that aspect, but for the majority of people who work from offices and whose transition was kind of like moving the office to their bedroom, if you're not careful enough, it might end up kind of like affecting your health because you're not moving enough. I'll also say that some of the effect, and I think this is something that I highlighted in the first question, was that most people have lost their jobs because they could no longer kind of like keep up with working from home. They were used to working from the office. So when they were told that, okay, from now on, you'll be working from your bedroom, they were like, okay, it's kind of like weird. working from home, so I don't think this is the right job for me, I'll just kind of like resign. Or they just started underperforming and then they were kind of like retrenched, or maybe just told, you know, you are not performing anymore, so you think we need to get someone who is tech savvy and who can deliver according to what we need. There has also been a lot of freezing of positions. Most companies have realized that they don't need a lot of staff to do these things. And also because, you know, they are paying for their offices and they are confused if they're supposed to continue paying for the rent or, you know, continue keeping the staff they are, because they're not working from the office. So this means that if they continue paying for the office, perhaps if they envision that things will get back to normal as soon as possible, they need to cut on staff so that they can replace that kind of cost to that particular expense. And this has really affected a lot of things. And yeah, working from the office enables one to meet with their colleagues physically, interact, have that conversation, you know, a one-on-one conversation, and also look at each other and see how they are faring on. But it's very hard to replicate this particular trend when working virtually. You know, you'll just call me, I will tell you, okay, I'm fine, I'm doing well, everything is moving on perfectly. But in real sense, I'm not doing well. You know, it's virtual. You cannot see my emotions, especially if I'm not turning on my video as I'm doing now. You know, I can be somewhere where there's maybe I am somewhere that is very dangerous, but because I am working virtually and my background is clean, you can never know if I am in danger or if something is happening to me. So those are just some of the shortfalls or some of the disadvantages of working from home. And yeah, I believe the list is very long, but it will be interesting also to hear from Olive.
Thank you so much, Eric. I'll just touch on a few of what you've said, and since you have elaborated effectively, I will not give a lot of elaborations on the same. So working from home has its advantages and it has its disadvantages. It has brought about, for example, in the lines with advantages, a lot of flexibility and agility in terms of delivery in the workplace. It has improved employee retention in the workplace. It has also brought about attraction to new talents. And it has also increased staff motivation. And ideally, also, it has brought about financial benefits. For example, we have the Kenya Revenue Authority, which has there is a lot of tax reliefs in terms of working from home. Aside from that, it has also brought about a better work-life balance, which essentially is essential to all individuals who are working in the workplace. Technology has also made things easier for us to move about and deliver in our minute deliverables. There is less need for regular holidays and less sickness absences since individuals are working from home or remotely. Now, in that, there's also disadvantages. Working from home doesn't suit everyone, and some people might need face-to-face or physical guidance, for example, from managers and supervisors in the workplace. Staff, in turn, depending on the different personalities, sometimes might feel isolated. Reason being they prefer physical catch-ups as opposed to using the online platforms like Skype and the likes. It has also brought about a little bit of distractions depending on the type of individuals who are working from home. So, for example, you would find some individuals that have families and they are busy trying to work from home, and probably their children want to also spend time with them in the midst of all this that's going on. It has also brought about challenges with staff development because it's also difficult to also keep track of how a staff member is improving in their minute tasks that are offered to them. Additionally, it has brought about negative impacts to their mental health, as Eric mentioned earlier. And yes, depending on the suitability of one's workplace, one has to also ensure that they have proper coverage in terms of technology and internet coverage when working from home, and ensuring that the broadband speeds are not as poor or inefficient in terms of their individual deliverables. So those are my take homes from that. Thank you.
Maybe just to echo on what Oliver said, the point on some people couldn't just keep up with working from home, and this is something I have noticed that it affected most of I would say the baby boomers. I would not like to refer to them as that way, but the elderly, people in their 50s, even people in their 40s, 50s, and 60s who are working in the formal sector. Most of them, the thing of working from home didn't just click. And even at the moment, when you look at them joining the calls, you could easily see how they are struggling, to keep up with the calls, to mute, to unmute, to navigate around, to position their videos. And also, this has really affected their productivity. They are not able to communicate their points effectively just because of the technological advances that maybe they were not there for their seasons. And then when it comes to the millennials and Generation Z, the problem is maybe a lot of distractions. They have a lot of distractions when it comes to social media. Okay, you are working, you have TikTok, you have Reels, you have YouTube. So you are working and then you go on TikTok. You spend there maybe 20 minutes. That is a lot of time that has been wasted doing nothing. It's also a good way of refreshing, but also it really kind of like, if you're not very well careful with it, you can easily get addicted to TikTok or addicted to Instagram Reels, and you will really waste a lot of your time. And this is something that actually affected me when I was starting on, because I had, stable internet connection. I was like, anytime I was free, instead of just doing something that could build me, I found out that I was wasting a lot of time going to Instagram and just swiping up and watching those funny videos and wasting a lot of time. So if people are not careful enough, this is also a shortfall of remote working, because no one is monitoring you. A lot of organizations, they don't monitor you. So long as they have given you tasks to perform, they will not come on and then start saying, okay, we want to measure the amount of time you're working on your computer. No, they will not do that. So if you don't have that self-control, you will find that you are really wasting a lot of time doing things that are not necessarily the best for your organization. And one thing also, again, that is very very, 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 very interesting is overeating. This is something that you cannot kind of like just overlook. When you work from home, you can easily overeat if you're not careful. So especially if you're a person who gets bored and then you find you look at food as something that can kind of like make you feel better. If you're not careful, you can also destroy your health just by overeating on junk food and foods that are not healthy to yourself. So unless people take good care of themselves and develop that self-control, yeah, that can really affect them.
Yeah, thank you, Eric and Oli, for your very informative responses. So my next question is, how do you communicate with remote employees and workers? So this question has three parts. And how has COVID-19 affected communication in the workplace? And what are the most common virtual platforms that Africans use right now?
Olive, you wanna go first? Then I'll say.
Yes, sure. Thank you. Okay, so communication, how we communicate at the workplace is through technological gadgets. For example, through the use of phones, laptops, and other means of communication that are availed to us in the workplace, depending. And COVID-19 has affected this communication in the sense that in my part, I would say there's been a bit of improvements in this in terms of communication, since follow-ups are being conducted, and at times manager or supervisor will, aside from just doing the usual, sending you an email just to confirm that you've understood the assignment, they would actually take a step further and actually give you a phone call conversation and take you through the entire, let's say, projects that you're doing at the time. So in my part, I feel like there's been, it has forced us to master the art of communication and effective communication to that effect. Reason being, communication is a two-way street. Just because somebody has received their, let's say, the assignment or task at hand, it does not mean that this person has the ability to understand what they're supposed to do and within what time lines they're supposed to submit the assigned task. So an additional set of communication to that being even just as simple as a phone call message or a text message just to confirm that somebody is at par with whatever they've been issued, then this comes in hand to really assist to go far in that regard. As for us in my workplace, the most common virtual platforms that we've been using include Zoom, just simple emailing, using online meetings through Google Meet, Skype, Zoom, as mentioned earlier, Microsoft Teams, and sometimes even the use of WhatsApp or Signal and other social media platforms such as Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, in order to communicate to the right channels of individuals. Thank you.
Yeah, I think that's very well said, Olive, and I just have a few things to add on it. So currently, at the moment, there are a lot of multinational organizations in Kenya, the likes of Microsoft, Facebook, Google, and also UN agencies that are very well established in Africa. And most of the times, you realize that some of the softwares they normally use are the ones that are used anywhere else globally. So, for example, we are talking about Microsoft 365 with pairing of Microsoft Teams with Outlook and all those tools that you normally use. So most of the time you'll find that multinational organizations are using Microsoft Teams and Outlook for communication. And then there will also be a little bit touch of WebEx when it comes to meetings with a lot of people and all that. So most schools nowadays use Google Meets because it is easily accessible by most students and it's easy to navigate and all that. And just others like Blue Jeans, Zoom for webinars, and yeah, we just have a lot of them. And maybe just to highlight that social media also is playing a very critical role in when it comes to communication in Africa. So we are talking about Facebook, WhatsApp, Instagram, and also Twitter. So these are platforms that most people use to relay the information and also just communicate internally by sharing images and all that. So I believe there were some concerns about security issues on WhatsApp, but people really moved on quickly to another platform. And, so these platforms are also in Africa and most people use them. And then I would also say that most people, like most organizations, really felt the need to move with speed when it comes to establishing an internal, effective means of communication because they realized, okay, our workers are going to work from home, and if we don't put in place effective and good communication strategies, we might not interact with them and supervise them well. So most organizations paid for these platforms. They got their premium packages, and be it on Zoom, on Microsoft Teams, on Blue Jeans, on Google Meets. And yeah, so I will say that most organizations really embraced the technology, and yeah, at least most of them have an effective means of communication that they find is suitable for them, be it maybe for the number of people they are supervising, be it to the budget that they have, because I believe most of them might be very expensive, especially to small and medium enterprises. Yeah, but I'll say, yeah, at least those ones who cannot afford the premium versions, they normally go with the free versions. And these companies that provide these softwares have been very generous. They always give you a package that you can kind of like start with before you move on to a paid version.
Yeah, thank you so much for that. Um, so yeah, that raises me another question, and that is going to be, what are some of the responsibilities of employees and employers or students while working remotely in Africa?
Yeah, so if I can take that question, so yeah, so Yes, I will say so for the responsibility of employers and employees, allow me to start from a very beginner level. I'll say maybe let me start with a student because I believe most of the people who are watching might be students. So the role of a student at the moment, especially with all this COVID-19 thing happening and all these changes and all these effects that have been brought about, I would say the responsibility of a student is to take a very keen eye on the changing dynamics in the market structure, look at what is changing in their field of profession and ensure that they align with it. If you are into international relations, what is changing in that particular field? If you are in marketing, what is changing in that particular field? Because when you are at school, the things that you are being taught, and this is something that has affected most of the universities in Africa. I'm not sure if maybe abroad things are different, but in Africa you realize that most of the things that you are being taught in school are the standard things. For example, let me just give an example of digital marketing. It's not very easy in Kenya at the moment to find a university that will teach you how to use Google Analytics when you are taking a marketing degree. This is something that is very sensitive, and I feel like it's kind of like a mandatory tool for any marketer to know how to use. And also, when you're doing graphic design, for example, in uni, it's very actually again very different to find someone who can teach you how to use Adobe, those tools that normally are used for designing, be it Photoshop or Illustrator or all those. It's very difficult to find a university that teaches you that. And if you find a university that teaches you that, they are normally offering it as a side course for you to pay for it differently as you continue with your normal degree. But it's very rare to find a uni that kind of like puts it all together in one package and then delivers it to you. So I really find that that's a very big challenge, and the responsibility of the student is to map out the different things in those respective areas to know exactly that, okay, when I finish my degree, what professional course do I need to take? Or is there anything else I need to do after I finish my degree in order for me to transition into another field? Or, for example, in Kenya, people who finish their accounting degree, most of them who are not aware, they'll just finish and then kind of like start looking for jobs. But those ones who kind of like were doing their research and they are well versed with the changing dynamics, we realize that, okay, when I finish my accounting degree, I'll need to do maybe a CPA, which is a certified professional accountancy, or maybe I need to do a CFA, chartered financial accountant, or a certified financial accountant, and all that. So students really need to be on the lookout for these changes and ensure that they are in line with them. And then for employers also, I feel like employees now, I feel like they really need to again look at their job structure and map out a plan and strategy how they will like to improve in their career. For example, if I am in marketing, if I want to move to a new level, I will start by mapping out, okay, in these organizations, what are some of the things that are happening? What skills can I learn, or what course can I take to ensure that I position myself for transition into a role that is above and more beneficial to me. I also feel like employees need to take good care of their health, because this is your responsibility. Your supervisor will not come to your home and start telling you, okay, you need to take good care of your mental health. While most organizations are very conscious about these issues, you'll find they are organizing webinars to teach you like on things like smoking, to teach you on things like mental health, to teach you on things like time management. But I feel like it's more of a personal responsibility than it is an employer's responsibility to teach you to do that. So you need to know when to stop working. You need to know where to differentiate your working hours and the hours you need to rest. You also need to know kind of like just how to deliver your task in a way that is simplified and it's not so stressful to you. And then I also feel like employees have a role to kind of like execute their functions very effectively so that we can all join hands in ensuring that we push towards the economic recovery of our countries, because COVID-19 has really devastated our economies. And if we don't work hard, if we don't put in the extra mile and you know ensure that we are delivering our tasks effectively, we might not recover as soon as possible. So employees really need to work hard to ensure that we are building up the economies that have failed or they have been devastated. And then when it comes to employers, I feel like they need to remunerate their employees again very fairly. If you are given enough resources, if you are provided a conducive environment. And this I have seen with most multinational companies. What they are doing is when you're working from home, they will provide you with everything you need. They will give you a monitor. They will give you, others even give you tables, proper tables. Others even send you proper chairs to sit on. Others even give you, proper seating apparatus that you can use, to sit comfortably as you execute your functions. And others have even gone to the extent of switching off system. So if it's on a weekend, they will kind of like switch off the system. You cannot work on a weekend, and this is just with a move to ensure that their employees are comfortable, they are working effectively, and they're also taking good care of their health. Yeah, so there are also a lot of things that employers can do to ensure that, as part of their responsibility to ensure that people are adapting to remote work and all that. And I believe we'll be able to talk more we can continue the conversation later. Yeah. Olive.
Okay, thank you so much, Eric. Just to add on to what you've just said, the main responsibilities will be in line with the duty to adapt to the changes, not just in the workplace, but in the society in whole. Just because we are facing this situation at this time, in the future, a different situation might come into play, and we will be forced to sort of circumnavigate and adapt to the situation as well. So having a positive attitude towards the negative implications and the positive implications would be essential in that regard, just focusing on adapting and moving forward. I would say also focusing on performance management would be essential in regards to keeping a track of the sort of assignments per se that have been issued out, so that you are also in track with your deliverables as an employee and as an employer to one another. Additionally, focusing on digitalization would go hand in hand with that, because we've been forced in these trying times to focus on digitalization and using other means of communication in order to give the right response to whatever tasks are required of us. I would also say that gaining training, especially in terms of effective communication, is quite essential. And without undergoing any sort of communication skills, be it during undergraduate or postgraduate phases in one's life, this in the workplace would bring a lot of calamities and the like. So focusing on that would be quite an additional asset. And then I would say that from a legal perspective, also looking into legal and contractual complications and implications which may arise, be it one is working remotely or not, would be quite essential in that regard, because with the current pandemic, most organizations have had to sort of restructure their contractual the contracts that they offer to service providers and also their own employees. So understanding the nitty-gritties on that would be also be an individual responsibility as an employee and also as an employer, or even as a student, be it that you're taking up an internship position at an organization or not. Finally, I would say, as Eric mentioned earlier, focusing on occupational safety and health is quite essential. Some employers up to date do not even offer insurance coverage to students or employees, because that is also an expense on their end. So as individuals, we also have to take it upon ourselves to safeguard ourselves and maintain the WHO standards in this regards, like washing your hands, sanitizing, social distancing, and generally staying at home and not leaving their house to unless it's really, really necessary for one to walk about in the society. And then, in conclusion, I would say finding a work-life balance. I cannot echo this more than enough times. Essentially, with working remotely, it has really brought to light that finding a work-life balance is quite essential in the society. We have had several instances and read several times in the news sector of individuals committing suicide or having cases of mental health issues because they were not able to find a work-life balance. And this has brought into light a lot of factors which were being undermined in the previous years. And as much as COVID-19 has brought a negative effect to the society in whole, this is also, we can also thank it in this regards and look at it like a blessing, because it has brought to light the things that were not being openly discussed, and nowadays these are the talks of daily proceedings and the likes. So that's my take from that. Thank you.
So yeah, has there been a cut in salary since COVID-19? In Have many workers been laid off in Africa due to this?
Yeah, a lot of people lost their jobs, especially I'll say, if I recall very clearly, in the first quarter of 2020, a lot of people lost their jobs when COVID-19 had just kind of like started coming in. Yeah, so most companies, as I just mentioned earlier, they were not kind of like laying off people, not necessarily because they want to, because they have been affected by COVID-19, but other companies are just choosing it as an excuse to kind of like get rid of, you know, the large numbers of employees they had kind of like accumulated, and just to kind of like ensure that there's a streamlined operational model even as the pandemic was hitting them hard on the other side. And this also just echoes how people who had strategically positioned themselves well in their organizations and in their job when it comes to delivering their functions and also jumping on different projects was, because you realize that most of the people who were performing very well, even when the pandemic was not there, it was very hard for them to be laid off, and they were able to kind of like continue working in their respective organizations. But those people who were kind of like were not kind of like owning their areas of operations very well and kind of like executing their functions as they were required, it was very easy for the organizations to kind of get rid of them. And also, there was also an issue of organizations trying to cut cost. The thing with working from home actually showed most people that they can still perform according to standards even without kind of necessarily using a lot of people to kind of like to execute those respective functions. And just again to add on that, I will say that most companies also kind of like with the little stuff that they had, they kind of like came up with a model to continuously equip them with the different skills and ensure that they have all that is required for them to perform effectively in their functions. So most people moved with speed to ensure that they are having online sessions to kind of like induct their workers on how to work from home and all that. And those people who found it very difficult for them to kind of like transition to that model, you realize that most of them were just dropping off and saying, okay, I don't feel like this industry is just is just favoring me, especially now that you're working from home. So it's just be good for me to kind of like transition from this industry to the other industry. And also at the same time, you are having a lot of layoffs, a lot of people are being kind of like laid off. There were also a lot of opportunities that were coming up. So most people learned that, you know what, I can provide consultancy services just instead of sitting here. I can start training people on how to adapt from working from home and doing this stuff. I can also be kind of like I can even take care of people's kids as they work from home, because as you realize, most people, there was no school, you are stuck home with your kids, you are stuck home with all these things that you didn't imagine you would be working when they were there. So most people develop different ideas on how to solve those particular issues, and I feel like it created a lot of opportunities, and most people are actually able to get jobs. So when a person was laid off, they could easily kind of like go back, sit down and say, okay, I've been removed from my job position, but I can also become an entrepreneur, or I can come up with an idea to start my own business instead of just depending on being employed by someone else. Yeah.
Okay, so there have been rampant job displacements. The resultant effect has been dramatic and long-lasting effects in the employment, earnings, and income prospects of the workers that were laid off. Many displaced workers experience extended spells of unemployment, and once they find new jobs, they tend to suffer significant and long-lasting earnings reductions. At least 1 million Kenyans have lost their jobs or have been put on an indefinite unpaid leave as the COVID-19 pandemic morphs into a major job crisis. Youths account for 60% of all of Africa's jobless, according to the World Bank, that is. In North Africa, the youth unemployment rate is 25%, but is even greater in Botswana, the Republic of Congo, Senegal, and South Africa, among others. With 200 people aged between 15 and 24, Africa has the largest population of young people in the world. In most African countries, youth unemployment occurs at a rate more than twice than that for adults. These are notes from African Development Bank. And the individuals who feel the sting in this unemployment phase, especially, are young women as opposed to men. According to research from AFDB, that is African Development Bank, they have found that the countries in sub-Saharan Africa and those in North Africa, it's easier for the men to get jobs than it is for women, even if they have equivalent skills and experience. This is quite concerning, and is the current situation at play.
Thank you so much, Olive and Eric. My last question for today's webinar is, what lessons did you learn from this crisis, if there were any? And is there anything that you wish you had done while working remotely?
Yeah, Olive, if you wanna go.
Oh, thank you, Eric. The COVID-19 pandemic has demonstrated to us the value of freedom, the freedom to move, to be with those you love, to live in dignity and security for ourselves and for those around us. From our loved ones to the refugees and the downtrodden, all of us have really experienced the necessity and the value of freedom. Above all, it has shown us the importance of recognizing true purpose of our businesses and economies, our political parties, our governments, our local civic associations, and our international organizations, our conventions and ideologies, and all other systems, namely those that especially serve our human needs and purposes. These needs and purposes are not just for individuals, but also they serve the society and the natural world. And in pursuit of our individual needs and our self-interests, we are also in a community whereby we need to aspire and articulate what our culture and what our religion and what the community in whole would endeavor or want. In that regard, we have to take into consideration that we are all interdependent. One person cannot function on their own, and we need the others in order to cooperate and reach the heights that we would like to reach eventually. So the COVID-19 has highlighted the danger of ignoring that interdependence and the importance of not just individual cooperation, but global cooperation as a whole. It has shown us with crystal clarity that all of humanity is in the same boat, since the virus can be defeated somewhere only when it is defeated everywhere. It has shown us that pretending that we can achieve security in isolation within the borders of our nation or our culture or our class or our individual religion is irregardless. We need to work together. Thank you.
Yeah, very true, very true, Olive. We indeed really need to work together. Now, from me, just looking at the lessons that I learned from remote working, and the whole COVID-19 crisis situation, the thing that clicks in my mind as number one is every crisis presents an opportunity to learn. So there has been a lot of challenges, but all we need to do is just to evaluate and move with speed to ensure that we take advantage of all these opportunities that are coming up as a result of this pandemic. And then the other thing is that mental health is very underrated, especially with young people. Before they realize that this thing is actually hitting them hard, it's normally very late for them to kind of like get into that reverse gear and start doing things appropriately. So taking care of our mental health is very important, even as we work, even as we look for these opportunities, even as we kind of like try to go out of our abilities to do all these things. We need to understand that we need to take care of our mental health to deliver even productively. And then another lesson is that having a plan is very important. You need to have a plan of where you are, where you plan to go, and take the different risks and ensure that you actually incorporate them in order for you to know that, okay, when this happens, I will need to do this to counter this particular thing and all that. And also, another thing is that you need to believe in your abilities. COVID-19 has been here and it seems like it's going to be here for a very long time. And what you need to do is believe in your abilities. When you get that opportunity, jump on it, perform your best, and you never know where it can lead you to. Be someone who is kind of like you adapt to change as fast as possible. Things are going to change, and you have seen this with the changing things that has been brought by COVID-19, and a lot more is going to change. So always be ready to adapt that change. Always be ready, to kind of like do anything, perform any task, and in order for you to remain relevant in your specific field.
Thank you so much, Eric and Olive. Those were all the questions that I've prepared for today. Are there any comments or any other last words that you would like to provide before we end our session today?
Yeah, totally. Totally, if I can just share my last words. So I would just like to, because I understand that most of the people watching this session are young people, I'll just say that believe in yourself, understand very well where you want to go, understand your path, and explore, do your research and understand the different skills you need to ensure that you remain relevant in the job market structure, and also take care of your health, take care of your mental health, take care of your physical health, and continue with the fight. Yeah, and I'm very sure you'll succeed in whatever you do.
I couldn't have said it better myself. I would say that as you're growing in your profession, there will definitely be ups and downs. But like Eric mentioned, continue believing in yourself. In case you feel that you need to consult individuals, mentors, and the likes, feel free to do so. Like I always say, a problem half shared is a problem half solved. So regardless of maybe not knowing where you would like to go or where you'd like to be, or not knowing what kind of future projection or having an idea as to your career projections and the likes, and that's quite normal, because even as an individual, I was in the same shoes as probably most of you are as well, and it doesn't hurt to share with those who are close to you so that you can get the right guidance in order to reach where you would like to go. So that's my 2 cents going forward. All the best.
Oh, that was really amazing discussions. I was following up this discussion. Thank you very much once again, Eric and Ollie, for your time and for your knowledge. That was really insightful. Yeah, we will be ending our webinar right here. And we hope you will start keeping yourself safe and secure, especially in this hard time, in these Corona times, where this is a kind of must to take care of ourselves. Thank you once again. Bye bye.
Thank you, Rogerio. Thank you so much, Hio. Bye bye. Thank you, Olive. Bye bye.
Thank you. Thank you so much, everyone. Bye.
Yeah.
Thank you so much
Thank
for
you so much,
such an
Hio.
Bye.
Thank you so much for the discussion.
thank you for
Bye bye.
such an inspiring and engaging discussion. I've learned a lot today. Thank you so much for your time and everything. It was a pleasure having you too.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Yeah. Bye.